Call the meeting of the Hammond Common Council to order for February 8, 2021. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Alexander.
Eternal God, our Father, Lord, we come again saying thank you, Lord God. Lord God, continue to cover us and keep us in this season, Lord God. Continue to guide us and lead us as we continue to go about your business. Lord, we just ask right now for a special prayer over our first responders, Lord God. Continue to cover our fire department and our police department, Lord God. Lord God, continue to cover every teacher, every student, every medical professional, Lord God, and every essential worker in this season. We thank you for everything that you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Present.
Spitali.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Yawinski.
Here.
Torres. Tyler.
Present.
Emerson.
Here.
Rakos.
Here.
Warple.
Here, let the record show 8 present, 1 absent, 2 in chambers, 6 on the Zoom. Mayor?
Hi, Councilman. Thanks. Good evening to the Hammond City Council and all the residents that are watching. I'm here to give a real quick update. I wanted to remind everybody that all flags are being flown at half-mast at City Hall right now and all city buildings in honor of Indiana's former First Lady, Susan Bai, who passed away on Saturday, I believe. I'm not sure if it's a statewide mandate, but we're doing it here locally. Obviously, she was a great First Lady, and we're going to keep them at half-mast until she's buried. I think it's supposed to take place Wednesday or Thursday. I wanted to point out that we've had a number of moves in the Hammond Park Department lately. You'll hear more about them. Some of these just happened. Selena Baez was as the recreation, basically a citywide recreation supervisor. We changed her title and moved her to the Sportsplex, where she's now working as a Sportsplex recreation supervisor. She's still going to work with children mostly, but it's a lot better location to work with children is the Sportsplex, which has thousands of children walking through every weekend. So we thought she would be better served working out of the Sportsplex and reporting to Kim at the Sportsplex. Juan Soto is now the supervisor of the Gene Shepherd Community Center. He was the number 2. He has been moved up to number 1. He's done a great job over there. And Craig Fott, a lot of people know Craig. He came from Public Works, and he was working at the Sportsplex as a supervisor. Craig Fott has been transferred from the Sportsplex to, basically it's called the Outdoor Recreation Supervisor, which is basically the baseball tournament director for the city of Hammond. I think last year we made over $100,000 for baseball tournaments being played in our city, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger part of the park budget, and we need somebody watching that, and Craig is, perfectly suited for this job, and he's very excited. So that's happened lately. I know most of you over the weekend realized that the Hammond Fire Department had a huge fire at the 6100 block of Holman Avenue. The conditions were brutal. It seems like every year we have at least one fire like this where it's a big ice cube when you get done, and this weekend was no different. I want to send out my congratulations to the Hammond Fire Department and 2 different shifts who fought that blaze, 6100 block of Holman. Although the building was a total loss, the fire department did a great job fighting it, and we appreciate their hard work. When I went out there, it was -6, and they were out there for hours before I got there. It was brutal. Literally everything was frozen when they got done. I want to remind Hammond Public that carjackings across Northwest Indiana are unacceptably too high, higher than almost at any time I can remember as your mayor. I want to point out that a majority of the carjackings aren't carjackings at all. It's simply stealing a car that's warming up. A lot of our quote-unquote carjackings are categorized as a carjacking, but they steal your car from your driveway when you're warming it up in the morning. This is a alarmingly high number of cars that are taken right out of your driveway with the keys in the ignition. Another area of, and this isn't just a Hammond issue, I was watching something, Hammond PD gave me a video last week to watch. It was right next door to the Munster Donut, right there on Calumet in Ridge. It was at the BP gas station right there. Lady got out, she was warming up her car. While she was warming it up, while she was filling up, she got out of the car. They walked up to her with a gun, got in the car and just took off, right there. It's that quick. She had her car running. If she doesn't have her car running and the doors are locked, that doesn't happen. So I want to put everybody on extra alert. You should be talking to your family about this. You should be talking to your kids about this. Places to be particularly careful, gas stations, closer to the Illinois border, anywhere close to the highway. Think about it as a bad guy. If I get your car, can I get on that highway within a couple seconds and get the hell out of here? If so, you're probably in an area where you should be watching out. I watch out, obviously, anytime I'm filling up my car, but along the state line being particular, and I'm not talking just Hammond. I'm talking along the state line in Munster and in Dyer and in St. John, where this is happening. Anywhere close to the Illinois border is happening. Along 8094, it's happening. Be on guard. This is happening right now. The best way to protect yourself is to protect yourself. Hammond PD. So anyway, I didn't know if anybody had any other questions. That's pretty much my report for right now.
Is anybody, let the record show that Councilman Torres is present now.
Hi, Councilman Torres.
Hello.
Councilman Torres?
Yeah, my question is, you said difference between a car jacking and a hijacking and the auto theft. If there's somebody around the car, like it's gassing but standing outside, that's car hijacking instead of pointing the gun and telling the person to
I
get up?
don't categorize statistically, I don't, okay? But I do know, I don't know how the police department categorizes if somebody's armed and takes your car versus they steal it out of your driveway, okay? But the point I was trying to make, I don't want anybody to get distracted. The point I'm trying to make is a large number of our cars that are stolen right out of your driveway. That's the point I was trying to make.
Oh.
Too high. Stolen out of a gas station, okay? You know, you're warming it up, you go in to get a cup of coffee, you come out and your car is gone. That happens too much. Happens right out of your driveway. Happens too much. We do unfortunately have situations where people are armed and they try to take your car as well. That's obviously a carjacking. I don't know how they categorize either, but the point I was trying to make, Councilman, is a lot of the stolen cars in our city it's just through negligence on our part. You know, leaving your car running with the keys in the ignition, for instance. Okay. That's all I'm trying to say.
I might be wrong, but it used to be if you're being threatened at the time, then it's a hijacking. If you're not nowhere near the car, then it's an auto theft.
It could still be the way,
Yeah,
Councilman,
okay.
I'm not sure. I don't categorize it, so I just read it.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Anybody else have any questions for the mayor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
make a motion to accept the minutes from January 25th, 2021, to be placed on file, please.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Venez to accept the minutes and place on file. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 4, approval of claims.
I'm sorry, did you call for register of claims?
Yes. Yes, Councilman Rakos, register of claims.
Okay. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay claims dated 1/28/2021 and ending with claims dated 2/3/21, claim number 345 through claim 594 exclusive, in the amount of $21,786,935.68.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Rakos and seconded by Councilwoman Venez to accept the claims as written and put in the packet. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakos,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 9 in favor, 0 opposed. The claims are approved. Item number 5, public hearings.
Item A, ordinance 20-30, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance establishing economic improvement district and authorizing and approving other actions with respect thereto.
Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, feel free to come up to the podium. State your name. Public hearing.
Hi, I'm Tom Dockich. I'm with the Data Center. If we appreciate your support on this, this has been, there's been a lot of leadership on this issue. This is the first time we've done something like this in Hammond, and it's been rarely used through the state of Indiana. I just want to thank everybody for diving into this issue and making all of us better on the way that we've approached it. Councilman Kowinski has been a leader on this matter. The mayor and his staff have really helped us define the issue. I think that Ice Miller has been fantastic about it. I think some of the things that we learned in this process are going to translate to other places throughout the state and other public-private partnerships. So if you see your way fit to pass this, we'd appreciate it. It's an important part of the development and the expansion of the data center. My partner here, Kirk O'Fell, is here today to answer any questions if need be. But we thank you very much for your consideration, and you have been very thoughtful on this.
Thank you. Does anybody else in chambers wish to speak? Mayor?
Hi, Mr. President. I'm here speaking on behalf of the data center's proposal for EID bonds of $36 million. We have vetted this project probably more than any project I've seen in the last decade going before the Hammond Council. This has been before numerous attorneys, numerous elected officials. Everybody had their say. I think, obviously I'm not going to speak for Councilman Kowinski. This is the first district, and we wanted Councilman Kowinski to have a heavy say in this. I think Councilman Kowinski will indicate that we've aired this issue out. Obviously, I'm not speaking for him, but I am here. I think the vision for a campus of data centers at that location is a great vision for our city. I think it's going to help bring more tech jobs to our city. It's going to bring more construction jobs to our city. I can tell you that when state line generators shut down at this location, we had no plan. They caught us off guard. We had no plan for what was going to replace the state line generator. So I think that the moves that we made by building Indiana's first data center at that location, following it up, the proof of concept, following it up with the data center, the next phase that we're building now, I don't think it's a stretch at all to think that we'll have multiple data centers at this location, probably within the next decade. I don't think that's a stretch at all. And if Hammond is known as the city in Northwest Indiana that houses multiple data centers, I'm fine with that. I think that's a good thing for our city. I think it's a good thing for our reputation across the state. And I tell you, I met the gentlemen that are here today. Both Kirk and Tom are fine quality people. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about in regards to the data center. We've forced them to jump through hundreds of hoops. I'm not kidding. I think, and I know the council's aware of this. We put them through the process because we wanted to make sure that, come hell or high water, City of Hammond is going to be protected in this. And I think by most accounts, Hammond is going to be protected after, these bonds are issued, which is what my major concern was. So I do want to say thank you to Tom and to Kirk and to the data center group for jumping through the hoops. It was important. I want to say thank you for working with us and answering all of our questions. And we had dozens and dozens of questions. And I think after a lot of hard work, here we are before the Hammond Council asking for your approval on this. And I just want to make it clear that the city administration supports this proposal, and I'm looking forward to signing the legislation once you pass it. So thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anybody else wish to speak on this issue? And can IT help me out if somebody on Zoom would like to speak on the issue? Does anybody on Zoom want to speak on the issue? Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. Item number 6, communications. Does anyone have any communications?
Mr. President,
Councilman Torres.
last Wednesday, I wrote a couple of letters, one to Controller Flores, asking for a meeting to discuss. Last council meeting, she told me in the hall that my district was quite a bit of money in the deficit with the gaming money for projects. And I disputed that, so I asked for a meeting with her, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I was told by the chief of staff, Mr. Talon, that we're going to meet Wednesday, he and Ms. Flores and I, to discuss that matter. The same day I wrote a letter to the mayor advising him of this meeting, and he did write back saying that, yeah, he's going to let the chief of staff and Ms. Flores resolve the problem. So I just wanted that on record. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any communications?
Mr.
Anybody else?
President,
Go ahead.
here's our
Councilwoman,
update
was
on
that
our COVID
Councilwoman
numbers.
Alexander?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Here's our update on our COVID numbers from last meeting to this meeting. 46320 is additional 25 cases. 46327, additional 45 cases. 46323, additional 18 cases. 46324, additional 43 cases. 46394, an additional 17 cases. That's 148 cases. I just want to continue to remind everyone to wear your mask, continue to mask up as much as possible, wash your hands, and socially distance as much as possible so that we can continue to work our way out of this pandemic. We know that vaccines are available for those that are 65 and up. Schedule to get your vaccines if you choose to. And let's continue to fight this fight that we're fighting in Hammond.
Thank you, Councilwoman Alexander. And it sounds to me from the numbers you reported that the numbers are going down some.
That's what it sounds like, but I don't know if where we are in the state numbers, how often they're actually updating them. But yes, it does look like they're going down. But like we did with the last meeting, they went up. The meeting before that, they went down. So I don't know what the trend is. I will keep managing and watching those numbers to make sure that we do know, so that we can keep informing the public so that they can know if they're doing the right things or when we're doing the wrong things. The numbers definitely do show.
Well, I just encourage everybody to wear the mask because I hear it all the time. A friend of mine tells me all the time, with this vaccine being out and everything, you don't want to get careless and be the last person shot in a war, so continue wearing the masks.
Yes, even then, once you get the vaccine, continue to wear the mask until we all get cleared.
Yeah. Thank you. Has anybody else got anything under communications? Any more communications? Communications are now closed. Item number 7, committee reports.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Venez.
yes, council as a whole will be bringing out 2102 and 2103.
Thank you, Councilwoman Venez.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
Council as a whole will be bringing out 20-30.
Thank you, Councilman Kowinski. Is there any other committee reports?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
And I need to check with Councilman Rakos. Is the next Hessville Crime Watch meeting on the 18th of February?
I believe
Well,
so. That would
okay.
the third Thursday. Yes.
Thursday, okay. And so Hessville Crime Watch will be meeting on the 18th of February at 6 p.m. at the Gene Shepherd Center. Obviously, we as a Crime Watch organization are trying to be very careful, and we are not holding any meetings as of right now. We will be having a virtual Crime Watch, citywide Crime Watch meeting coming up very soon. We haven't got a solid date on that just yet, but I will let everybody know. You can visit the Hammond, Indiana Police Department Facebook page and view the last meeting that we had. And as a matter of fact, we discussed what Mayor was talking about tonight, and that is the carjackings and precautions that we can't take. So please be very, very careful. Don't let your car running unattended. If you go to a gas station and you see people mulling around, go to a different gas station, because if they're just hanging around, they're more than likely up to no good. So please be very aware and keep yourself safe. Also, as Councilwoman Alexander stated, please be sure to wear your mask, socially distance, wash your hands. Please be very careful, and be sure to register for the vaccination when you become eligible, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other committee reports? Councilwoman Venez or Councilman Spitali or Tyler, you want to report on the Capital Improvements Board?
Oh, yes. No, I can't at this time. I'm not prepared. I'm so sorry.
So, are you reaching for it, or are we gonna?
Can we come back to
Okay.
it? I'll come back to it.
We can come back to it on the new and unfinished business. And
Yes, thank you very much.
Mayor, would you mind sticking around and re-explaining what we talked about at the last meeting as far as the redistribution of the gaming money too? You can do it now if you'd like. And when you were talking about the quarterly
Right.
with the money.
Well, basically, the council people have been here, but for the public that's listening right now, the way we'd always spend money, gaming money in particular, prior to last year and the pandemic hitting was January 1st, let's just say 2010 comes around, and on January 1st, 2010, the council and the mayor were expecting to get, I don't know, let's call it $33 million of gaming revenue, and we would budget accordingly and start spending money on January 1st, spending the money that we expected to get. Now, in normal years, what's that? In normal years, all right, there you go. We would spend that money and you would get the expected money you were anticipating. However, sometimes, let's say you spent $30 million, you were expecting to get $30 million, but you only received $25 million that year. You overspent $5 million that year, and you would roll into the next year $5 million upside down, where if you spend the same amount of money expecting to get, you can make matters much worse. But that's the way government sort of works. We do it every year with property taxes, right? Like the money we're spending right now on police department salaries is money we're expecting to get through tax. And we do, by the way, because we bill our residents and they pay their taxes and we use their money to pay salaries, right? However, on gaming, we proposed to do something different. And I've been talking to the council members, and it's just a mindset shift where if we agree, because we froze spending during the pandemic. We all know that. It was the right thing to do. It was a hard thing to do, but we haven't spent gaming money since February of this year. We did a whole year of not spending gaming money, and we rolled into the end of 2020 after paying all of our expenses with $4 million in the bank. It's give or take a couple bucks, but let's just call it $4 million. Now, the boats are open right now. They're not making what they used to make. So what we're proposing is a mindset shift from the council and the mayor where we look backwards instead of forwards. So every quarter we release, in this case, we have $4 million in the bank. So we release this $4 million. We put it through the equation we all worked out with, I think 62% of it going to the Capital Improvement Board, 15% of it goes to the council districts, 15% of it goes to the mayor, a portion of it goes to the Gaming Advisory Committee, a portion of it goes to the Rainy Day Fund, but doing it backwards. So we know we have $4 million in the bank at the end of 2020. So we do $4 million right now, put it through there. It goes through the equation, 62% of it goes to the Capital Improvement Board, and they have that money now. So let's call that $2 million. Sorry, this is getting a little in the weeds. It's going to take them a while to spend that $2 million. That doesn't happen overnight. So we go to the Capital Improvement Board members and we say, you got $2 million, you can spend it. It's in the bank. And they start making contracts and they start spending that money. They won't spend that money probably until like June, July, when it'll actually be spent. In that entire time, we have $4 million sitting in the bank we're drawing interest, we look wealthier than we are because it's sitting there, it's gonna be spent, it's just not spent now. And then, by the way, at the end of the first quarter, the number should be much more because the boats are getting back to normal. So let's say the next batch at the end of the first quarter, we releases $6 million, and it goes into the different equations. All I'm saying is if we just do that easy shift, and it's easy now, we did the hard part. We spent a year off, not spending money. That's the hard part. If I would have come to you guys 3 years ago and said, hey, let's take a year off, you would have told me I was crazy. But we had to do it because of the pandemic. So now let's do the right thing. Let's just spend backwards. We spend what we actually have. And I think, I think that's the right way to do it, personally. And we've already done the hard part. And the next meeting, I know Megan's not here. She had a family situation come up, so she couldn't be here today. But the next meeting, you should have a resolution pending before you that splits up the first chunk, which is right around $4 million. And then at the end of the first quarter, you have another resolution before you that splits up the next chunk. And then after the second quarter, we'll do the same thing. But what it's going to do to our bank accounts is inflate them by millions of dollars because the money is actually there. We're not spending expected money. We're spending what we have. We're expecting to get that money this year, and we'll release it a quarter at a time. But now we're spending backwards and not spending forward. I'm so sorry to the residents at home that I just put to sleep, but Councilman Warple asked for this explanation. But I think it's a good idea. You'll hit the first check coming very soon. And we worked out the equations on the gaming ordinance when we created the capital improvement board. So
The reason I asked is this goes to an email I received after the last meeting asking if we were redoing the gaming money yet again, and I just, rather than give a long-winded explanation, I wanted you to come up here.
I think it's smarter because we've already done the hard work, and it'll inflate our bank accounts. And when state board comes in here and they look at our bank account balance and it's 5 figures, back in the old days, and they come in and look at our bank balances now, and it's going to be 7 or 8 figures. We're going to spend that money, but it's in the bank account right now. It just makes things look better. Credit rating will be better. We're not going to overspend ourselves, and unfortunately, during my time as mayor, I've experienced issues with that as well, where we spent too much money and had to dig ourselves out. We've done that. I've learned lessons from the past, and I think this is a smart way to go forward, and I hope you agree with me. But I do want to be very transparent with this, and every quarter we're going to come to you, and we'll talk about the number, and if you don't agree with the number, we'll dig on how we came up with that number. But once we all agree this is the number, put it through the equation and start spending the money.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody has questions
Councilman
about that.
Torres?
Yes, Mr. President. This year, the district got approved for 2021, $404,000 per district. Okay, I'm just doing it on top of my head.
Is that the 4 million times the?
Yeah,
I don't know what the exact number is.
divided by 6, but it comes to about 400.
Just to clarify, I think
400,000.
he's going by the example of if.
Okay.
Yeah, what's in the book.
Thank you, I'm sorry. Okay.
In addition, the 2020 hasn't been allocated yet, so we still got money coming from the 2020 to be added to that.
Okay. 2020 is what we're talking about right now. At the end of 2020, I just call it fourth quarter because we didn't spend anything. Fourth quarter 2020, on December 31st, when we closed out our books in the city of Hammond, we had $4 million sitting in the bank, unspent. Money that we could spend right now, we could spend on capital projects. If we spent a whole nother year sitting on gaming and doing what we did in 2020, we'd probably have, I don't know how much we'd have. It'd be a lot because things are starting to get back to normal with our tax draws. So what we're talking about, Councilman, is going backwards. But I know there's 2 council districts, and I know that you have a dispute on what you feel is, and I don't know if you're right or wrong on that. I'm letting my chief of staff and my controller work with you on that, going back to that point. I know there are 2 council districts that had money in the bank at the end of 2019, and we made sure that those 2 council districts kept their money in the bank, and then basically we're rolling into 2021 fresh. Like everybody's at zero, basically.
Well, I don't know how I can be in a deficit because everything
Councilman, I have no idea. I'll be honest with you.
Because everything is approved. You'll only deal with 2 departments.
Yes, sir.
That's the park department and the engineers. Before any penny is spent, it's approved by either one of them. They check with the controller, make sure that money is there. And if it's not there, you're not going to spend it.
True.
In a project. So I cannot understand how can get that deep
Okay.
in deficit.
I'm not sure
That's,
either.
that's the meeting you have set up with the
Yeah,
controller,
but
correct?
the other question is, how often does the gaming money from the boats come in? Monthly,
Yes,
2
sir.
months?
Monthly.
So by March, you're gonna have, they're running, the boats are running now.
I imagine if things, I know the boats year over year, they're down, I think 30%-ish. Okay, they're doing fine, but they're not doing what they were doing a year ago.
Yeah,
okay?
that's understandable. but-
Right, of course, right?
but-
But we expect much more, like, we had 4 million at the end of the first quarter, or fourth quarter. I think it'll be double that, in that ballpark, for the
All
next
right.
chunk.
But is that money, 2021 money gonna be released as soon as it comes in?
Yes, sir, exactly.
So
Mayor-
that-
At the end of March, once we put that resolution before you, we'll be ready to, this one's taken a bit, unfortunately, but once we get this system up and running, it's going to be much more frequent, and you guys are going to be, it's going to be very transparent, Councilman.
Oh,
So
okay.
Mayor,
No, no.
to clarify, we're having a resolution come in front of us real soon for the 2020 money.
Yes,
Sometime in April, there'll be one for the first quarter.
yes. And then.
That answer
May,
your
June.
question?
And then sometime in July, there'll be one for the second quarter.
right.
August,
No,
September,
'cause
October.
I-
Sometime in October, there'll be one for, right?
I still am not clear whether 2020 and the 2021 are gonna be the sum, the lump sum of that resolution.
The
Just,
resolution that you have, that'll be at the next council meeting will be the 2020 resolution, the 2020.
okay, so the 2021
It'll be
money
in
wouldn't-
April.
will not be included.
It'll be in April.
That'll be in April.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilman Kowinski.
Mr.
Hi,
Mayor,
Councilman. Yes,
just
sir.
wanting to know the status of the 2 bonds we took out in 2020. Where are they now? Are they, any of it spent? Did we pay
TIF?
it back?
Good question. I'm not sure exactly, I'll be honest with you. I know that we did a TIF authorization, and I think it's one of the, it's like a line of credit. In fact, I had to Megan, a conversation with Megan specifically about this. I'm trying to remember the number, but we authorized it in the middle of the pandemic, and obviously at the time, we had no idea what we were facing, right? We knew everything was shut down, and do you remember how much it was for? Right. Thank you. Tax anticipation warrant, excuse me. $6 million, but it was like a bank line of credit. Like, we were authorized to pull $6 million. We wouldn't have to go through any, like, paperwork to get it. We never needed it. So even though the council authorized it and I signed off on it, we never used a single penny from that, Councilman Mark, which is wonderful. And if we would have had to pay it back during the year, but we didn't pull from it.
So in the future, do we anticipate holding that line of credit or
Sure.
paying it back?
I wish Megan was here when we were answering these questions, but I see no reason why it needs to be open, because now our tax draws are close to what they normally are. Our gaming revenue's down, our water is down, you know, as compared to normal. But like, we are starting to get back to normal on the financial end, you know. But I appreciate you bringing that up about the tax anticipation warrant. That was authorized by the council. But it was, like I said, it's like a line of credit they never pull from. You're authorized to pull from it, you just don't pull from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any further questions with the mayor under committee reports?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Alexander.
2 things. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll bring. One, dealing with the water.
Yes,
Can we get an update regarding, what we asked for regarding the low-income families?
Okay.
2, we were talking about, sorry, my brain froze for like a couple of seconds. Oh, the money. Can we get updates on what we actually have in the bank accounts to
Yeah.
keep us up to date as
That's
well?
coming in the next resolution, correct?
Well, I don't know if, we have like 100 bank accounts, so, but, I mean, we have a lot of bank accounts, I don't know the exact number, but going back to the first question about the low income, we had our first round of bills go out. Very few complaints so far. We are going to monthly billing in the Hammond Water Department. We are prepared to assist residents that have trouble paying their bill. We have people that are specifically assigned to that. We were talking about funding it with the budget, but I want to make this clear that, you know, NIPSCO doesn't talk to you for too long if you don't pay their bill, and we're not special because we're Hammond Water. You know, if somebody's not paying their bill, that's a problem. And if they're not paying their bill and they need temporary help, it's temporary help. It's not permanent help. Like, NIPSCO doesn't negotiate with you if you're not paying your power bill. They don't say, oh, I like Tom. He's not paying his bill, but I like Tom. keep Tom's lights on because he's a good dude. They turn my lights off, just like everybody else. So like, you know, it's unfortunate that some people are in this situation where that may be a trouble. And obviously, if they're having trouble for a month or two, we could probably try to help them. But at a certain point, you know, and I want to make something clear to the council. Even though we raised the water rates in our city, we're still the lowest rate in the state of Indiana. We are the lowest, okay? And I know we have issues with our customer communities, but the customer communities, even after our rate increase, they're buying water at the cheapest rate in the state of Indiana. These are facts. If you're in the customer community and you're watching right now, you're buying water, nobody can match our price. Nobody. Indiana American can't match our price. East Chicago can't match our price. Chicago cannot match our price. All right, and while we're talking about it, obviously, one thing that's changed, and I forgot to put it in my notes, is the Joliet water situation. They chose to connect to Chicago. I know you all know that. I want to thank a lot of people that worked very hard to try to make that a reality. I know Dean did a lot of work. I know Kevin did a lot of work. There was, the law department did a lot of work. It was a great try. We went for it, we lost. Our proposal was harder because it was $300 and something million extra. So we knew all along it was tougher. But I think you guys would rather see your mayor and the administration taking swings and misses than never taking swings at all. So that would have been a great deal for us, by the way. And it would have been a great deal for them also, but it didn't turn out the way we hoped. So, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Always informative. It's good to get the updates.
Thank you.
I've had a few residents approach me about the monthly water bill.
Sure.
And asking that when you prepay, there's a fee every time for every payment. If you go through your bank or your credit card or
Oh,
whatever,
if you're using credit card?
there's like a couple bucks
I
each
agree.
time.
We were talking about this at staff meeting last
So
week.
that's going to double for people
You're
who
right.
are doing that, and they're asking, can there be
Phil?
a resolution
Yeah.
to that payment, that extra fee?
Okay. You want to give an update on that? Could I have
I don't
corporate
need an
counsel?
answer now, I just wanted to bring it to your
No,
attention.
Councilman Mark, I appreciate you bringing that up. We had this conversation at staff last week about this very issue, about how like it's a high fee. When you're talking about a low bill, it's a high fee. And I think water departments, Phil? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. After the meeting that we had at staff where this issue came up, we set a meeting to talk through, work this out so that people that are paying their bills online or using, debits from their account are not going to get the fee. We know there's systems out there where it can be done, but we got to make sure we don't just immediately jump over to something different. But we're aware of the problem and we are addressing it right now.
So that will happen in the future, we just don't know when, and we'll be informed when, so we can tell our constituents.
Yeah, we got to go through that process and make sure we're picking out a better system where people are not going to get charged. But we all agreed, including Mayor, that should not be the case, that because you're paying through online or something that you're getting charged $2 or $3 extra.
Perfect, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Is there
All
any
right,
other
this is like
questions
part
for the
2 of my
mayor?
report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any more?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines.
are, are we under communications or committee reports?
Committee reports.
Okay. Yes, I did pull out my notes from the Capital Improvements Board. My apologies for not being prepared with that. It was we met on February 1st. It was a relatively short meeting. There were only 2 items that came up, coincidentally from Council President Warple, sent in 2 requests, one for Alexander Avenue and the other for Schneider. And my compliments to you, Council President. When you sent in the request, you gave details. You didn't just say, I want Alexander reconstructed or Schneider reconstructed. You gave details based on the work that you had done in the past, and you gave figures. And so I compliment you on that. So those projects will be added to the list and taken under advisement. The next meeting will be on February 16th, as opposed to the 15th. The 15th is President's Day and City Hall is closed. So we'll be meeting on February 16th at 4 p.m. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else have anything under committee reports? Hearing none, committee reports are now closed. Item number 8, ordinance, third reading and final passage.
Ordinance 21-02, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. And ordinance to amend ordinance 4872, amending ordinance 8715, 8717, 9133, also known as Chapter 122 of Title 11 of the Hammond Municipal Code relating to peddler and pop-up vendor licensing in the city.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I move for final passage of 21-02.
Second.
Motion's been made for final passage and adoption of 2102 by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
this ordinance is relating to the peddler and pop-up vendors license. This is only used for merchandise sales only with this group. This ordinance is revised and updated with new forms and processing. This ordinance does not refer to food trucks. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Venez.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 2102 passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Ordinance 21-03, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance amending ordinance number 8514, being an ordinance establishing a zoning plan for the city of Hammond in order to provide for orderly growth and development within the city, all in accordance with the comprehensive land use plan for purposes of amending Title 21 signs to incorporate revised provisions for the prohibited and temporary signs.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
Yes, I move for final passage of 2103.
Second.
Motion's been made for final passage and adoption by Councilwoman Venez of 2103, seconded by Councilman Spitali. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Venez.
Yes, first of all, Clerk Golick, I believe at the last meeting I was added as co-sponsor of this ordinance, so I just wanted to point that out. This particular ordinance amends the sign ordinance that is in existence. It addresses inflatable signs, the big blow-up balloon type things. Those are now prohibited. There is a prohibition of having signs on benches. Also, we are looking to amend the temporary sign usage to 30 days to include a gap period. Initially, you can make a request for a temporary sign for a period of 30 days. If you are looking to get an extension for the posting of that temporary sign, you must have 30 days in between the end of the first 30-day period and the beginning of the second 30-day period. That's called the gap period, and you will only be granted permission for temporary sign usage for a total of 2 times within a year. Any questions?
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Vitale.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 2103 passes 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Ordinance 20-30, sponsored by Councilman Kalwinski. An ordinance establishing economic improvement district and authorizing and approving other actions with respect thereto.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
motion for final passage of 20-30.
Second.
Motion's been made for final passage and adoption by Councilman Kowinski, seconded by Councilman Spitali of ordinance 20-30. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski.
motion to amend in 20-30A in its entirety, replacing 20-30,
Motion's been made. Oh, I'm sorry.
adding the petition to establish the DX Hammond Economic Improvement District in its entirety, including all the exhibits dated 01/04/2021. I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made to amend in 20-30A into 20-30. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Clerk
President.
Golick.
Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. This has been a long, laborious process, a learning process, even for an old councilman like myself, and it's been a pleasure getting cooperation from the administration, the data center group, Tom Dakich, and especially I want to tip my hat to Attorney Berger, the attorney for the council, who was studious in exploring how to get this through and get it done correctly so we didn't face a glitch down the road. And I want to thank all the other attorneys involved, Kevin Smith, David Westland, outside attorneys as well. And I just recently received a letter of recommendation and approval from Hammond Redevelopment Commission President Tony Hopprich, giving a glowing, detailed pitch for the data center from the Hammond Redevelopment Commission and all of its members. So I want to thank them too. I have not run across anybody who has had an issue with the EID that is being proposed, even though it's a new process for the city of Hammond. And I suspect that down the road, we may be seeing more of this kind of activity, and we'll be even better prepared for it when it comes across the table again. So thank you to everybody, and let's move on with this.
Mr. President,
Mayor.
I agree with Councilman Mark. A lot of work, a lot of hard work went into this. And in situations like this where you're dealing with companies, if anything goes wrong between the council and the administration, it's bad things for the project, and it was key that we were cooperating together the whole time. So I do want to also thank Attorney Berger and Mark and everybody on behalf of the city council that worked with the administration to make sure that even though we had a lot of questions and a lot of uncomfortable phone calls with Mr. Dockett about why it was taking so long, but like I know he knew all along it was moving in the right direction. It was just, we wanted to be safe. And I just want to say thank you to the council, to Tom and the data center group, and let's go ahead and vote on this thing.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment on 2030? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Clerk Golick, roll call on the amendment of 2030.
2030A and the petition. Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakels. Rakels,
Yes.
Yeah, he said yes.
Warple,
Yes, let the record show the amendment of 20-30 has passed, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
motion to approve 20-30A as amended.
Pardon me?
it's already been amended, Mr.
No, he's asking to approve it as it amended now.
Right.
Is there any discussion?
That been seconded?
Mayor? Is there any discussion on the motion as amended? Is there any discussion on the motion as amended? Clerk Golick, roll call on 2030 as amended.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Vines,
Yes.
Kalwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakels,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 2030 as amended passes.
Thank you, Council.
9 in favor, 0 opposed.
President Warple, that concludes the ordinances for final passage.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Item number 9 on the agenda, introduction of ordinances.
Item A, ordinance 21-04, sponsored by Councilman Spitali, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel motel innkeeper's tax fund for economic development purposes in 2021.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
move to first and second reading, refer to council as a whole, with the public hearing set for March 8th, 2021, and a meeting at 5 o'clock on March 8th, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made for council as a whole, meeting at 5 p.m. on March 8th, with the public hearing set for March 8th, 2021. Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Vines. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item B, ordinance 21-05, sponsored by Councilman Spitali, an ordinance appropriating the proceeds of the annual action plan and dealing with other matters pertaining to the expenditure of planned proceeds for the program year 2021.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to move to first and second reading, refer to council as a whole. Public hearing set for March 8th, 2021, with the meeting set for March 8th at 5:10.
Second.
Motion's been made, council as a whole, public hearing on March 8th. Council as a whole for a discussion at 5:10 p.m. on March 8th by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilman Emerson. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Torres.
I have a few questions for Juana. She happens to be here, and the head of CDBG. On Exhibit A, which is the last page of this ordinance, okay, I notice that you have project or delivery and emergency, for example, is 30,000. Emergency is the third line down, and then you have 10,000. I noticed that the application was, they asked for 50, and then the total of that, well, first of all, what do you mean by project?
$30,000.
Projected,
$30,000 is for the emergency program.
yeah.
The delivery of $10,000 is for staff salary.
Okay, so they asked for 50, but you could only give them 30?
Exactly. Well, ultimately, we gave them 40.
Okay. Well, 40 because that's your cost, delivery.
Exactly.
Okay, so you always don't give them what they ask for, you just,
It all depends on the total budget we get in from the federal government.
okay, whatever you can afford.
Exactly.
Okay, out of the budget. Okay, I just had a question on that, and the total CDBG budget is $4,159,519.
That's for CDBG, home, and ESG dollars.
Yeah, all three programs.
Federal grants, exactly.
Combined. All right. If I wanted to get just CDBG, I would have to add the projected cost and the delivery then. If,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's a little bit more than 2.1 million.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Again, is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Council as a whole will meet at 5:10 PM on March 8, 2021, with a public hearing set for that date. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item C, ordinance 21-06, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance appropriating the proceeds of the CARES Act and dealing with other matters pertaining to the expenditures for Round 2 Emergency Solution Grants, called ESG, of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which is the CARES Act program.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
move through go through first and second readings, refer to council as a whole with a public hearing set for March 8th, 2021, with the meeting set for March 8th, 2021 at 5:20.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Venez, that 2106 be moved to council as a whole with a meeting, council as a whole on March 8, 2021 at 5:20, with a public hearing set on March 8, 2021. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item D, ordinance 21-07, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance appropriating the proceeds of the CARES Act and dealing with other matters pertaining to the expenditures for Round 3 Community Development Block Grant of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act program.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
we go through first and second reading, refer to the council as a whole, public hearing set for March 8th, 2021, with a meeting set for March 8th, 2021 at 5:30.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali for council as a whole on March 8th at 5:30, with a public hearing set on March 8th, seconded by Councilwoman Alexander. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Item E, ordinance 21-08, sponsored by Councilman Tyler and Councilwoman Alexander. An ordinance recognizing Reverend John H. Parrish Sr. as the first black councilman in the city of Hammond and designating both the 1,000 and 1,100 blocks of Cleveland Street as Honorary Reverend John H. Parrish Sr. Street.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I would motion to move 21-08 through first and second reading with a council as a whole meeting on February 22nd at 5:30 and a public hearing on the same date.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Tyler, seconded by Councilman Spitali for first and second reading with a council as a whole at 5:30 and on February 22nd, and a public hearing set on February 22nd. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Torres.
you know, I had the honor of, and privilege of serving with Councilman Parrish between '88 and 1991. Served 4 years together. He was a man of full integrity, faith, and very humble. At my first caucus meeting that year in '88, I introduced myself and asked him how he preferred to be called, councilman or reverend. He said, "My name is John Parrish. You can call me John." By the next council meeting, I had figured it out that I told him that while in the building and during council business, I would refer to him as, call him councilman. And in public, I just refer to him as reverend. He simply said, okay. And after that, of course, throughout the 4 years, we had a good relationship, and that was his last years of service. But a true gentleman at all times, and to me, very humble. But he always represented his district with dignity and truly represented the best way he could. We got a few projects done together, him for his district, and we worked together on getting lights for Memorial Park. At that time, we could get them from the Enterprise Zone, and we did. And I got some for Urban Park, but we worked on that project together. So it'd be my honor to be added on as a third sponsor to this ordinance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Do we need that in the motion, or we just add his name?
We just added.
Just add his name. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Emerson.
I had the privilege of meeting Reverend Parrish, Councilman Parrish, when I was Director of Greater Hammond Community Services quite a few years ago. And he explained to me, we had a meeting of the board, and the door happened to be closed, and he gave me a tutorial on the sunshine laws and what they meant, and how you were not to have the door closed at any meeting. And to that end, he gave me an education in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it.
Aye.
President Orpel, that concludes the introduction of ordinances.
Item number 10, resolutions.
Item A, Resolution 21R07, sponsored by Councilman Rakos. A resolution authorizing the Hammond Fire Department to apply for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Mr. President,
Councilman Rakos.
I move for final passage of 21R07.
Second.
Motion's been made for final passage of 21R07 by Councilman Rakos, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
President,
Councilman Rakos.
Yeah, this is a resolution authorizing, like you said, for equipment for next year. It's a federal grant. Estimated, this grant awarded would have covered 90% of the cost of new equipment for the amount of $290,000, which would leave Hammond responsible for the $29,000. This is money that's already in the budget for the fire department, and it's a grant that they receive and apply for every year through the federal government.
Thank you, Councilman Rakos. Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes. 21R07 passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Item B, Resolution 21R-08, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Hammond authorizing the filing of an annual action plan application and designating signatories for payment voucher on letters of credit for the 2021 annual action plan programs.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to move for final passage of 21R-08.
Second.
Move for final passage of 21R-08 by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Vines. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
this resolution is just to apply for the funds for the annual action plan, which comes before us every year. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 21R08 passes, 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Item C, Resolution 21R-09, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Hammond authorizing and designating signatories for payment voucher on letters of credit for Round 2 Emergency Solution Grant of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act program.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I move for final passage of 21R-09.
Second.
Motion's been made for final passage of 21R-09, sponsored by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilman Rakos. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
this gives the right for the round 2 of the emergency grant.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show 21R09 passes 9 in favor, 0 opposed.
Item D, Resolution 21R-10, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Hammond authorizing and designating signatories for payment voucher on letters of credit for Round 3 Community Development Block Grant of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act program.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
move for final passage of 21R-10.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Spitali for final passage of 21R-10 by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Venez. Is there any discussion?
President,
Councilman Spitali.
this is just to apply for round 3 of the CDBG grant.
Is there any further discussion? Is there any further
Mr.
discussion?
President?
Councilwoman Venez.
Yes, I did not second that. I believe it was Councilman Tyler.
Okay, my apologies.
Alexander.
Alexander, okay, sorry.
Okay. Motion was made by Councilman Spitali, seconded by Councilwoman Alexander. Is there any other discussion? Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Golick, roll call.
Alexander,
Yes.
Spitali,
Yes.
Venez,
Yes.
Galwinski,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Rakels,
Yes.
Warple.
Yes, let the record show, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. 21R10 passes.
President Warple, that concludes the reading of the resolutions.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. Item number 11, new and unfinished business.
Item
2103,
21-.
2103 passed, so we don't need the letter of intent, the intent to consider. Does anybody else have any new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I would just like to acknowledge that, of course, February is Black History Month. I know that given COVID, a lot of the programs and celebrations across our city, across our county, have been made virtual. So I want to encourage members of the public to please continue to attend those, seek out lesser-known Black history facts, and learn about a cornerstone of what makes our country what it is. I do also want to call out our Community Development Office, who will be airing a special Black History Month program later on this month. More information will be released soon in the future. But this year, their program is acknowledging our own leaders in education across the city of Hammond, and the school city of Hammond. And so it's great to see a lot of educators, teachers, assistant principals, and principals throughout the city get recognized so far. But I also like to call out that we are not too, I want to say that we're not as progressed or ahead of racism and a lot of these firsts as we like to think that we are. In my lifetime, I know that I've met a lot of these individuals in our city. The ones, of course, that are being acknowledged now, but even ones that we've acknowledged in the past. So, for example, Miss Annie Hicks, who in 1960 became the first Black school teacher within the city of Hammond. The late Dr. Watkins, who, of course, was the first Black school superintendent within the school city. Dr. Milford Miller, who was the first Black principal in the city. Donna Hildreth, who was the first Black librarian, and of course, Ms. Albertine Dent, who was the first Black school trustee for the school city of Hammond. So I just want to celebrate those individuals as well, and just want to encourage people to, like I said, continue to search out those facts, and no matter what, try to figure out a way to break down barriers and figure out ways for us to come together and work together as a society. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Alexander.
I echo Councilman Tyler and what he just stated. That is absolutely true. We do want to continue to encourage people to look at those facts. There's a lot out there, and we're definitely not far from things that are happening not only in our city but just around our world. And I know that one thing is to continue to unify. To make our world a better place.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything on the new and unfinished business?
Mr. President?
Councilman Torres.
It's a minor point perhaps, but I believe the mayor has been talking right after roll call, and I believe that if it's not on the agenda, so we're technically, I think, supposed to suspend the rules for that. But
Councilman Torres, the mayor can approach and speak to the council
Yeah,
anytime he wants to.
no, let me finish, please. But to just make it so he has an agenda, just put state of the city for the mayor or representative. I believe anybody that talks without being on the agenda, whether it's me or the mayor or anybody, the rules have to be suspended. I mean, that's just my opinion that I.
Councilman Torres, I'm not going to argue with you, but the mayor can address the council anytime he chooses.
But if,
By Robert's Rules of Order.
okay,
Mr.
I know
President.
that, I know that. But if he's added to the agenda on the state of the city as right after roll call, then he's automatically on the agenda. I don't think it needs a motion or anything, but you can approve the agenda as president. So if he's added on there, then he's automatically on the agenda.
Thank you for your advice.
Okay.
Is there anything else under new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
I'd like to thank a great job done by Awana and those that might have been helping with her for our Martin Luther King Day program that was up this year. We all couldn't go to it because of the COVID, but I want to say it was a great program.
Thank you. Is there anything under new and unfinished business? Councilman Kowinski had a question on 2030, and that was an appointment by the council. Do you want to make, since it's in your district, do you want to make a recommendation, or how do we go about doing that?
Mr. President,
Councilman Kowinski.
I think at some point, probably a resolution with names will come forward when the mayor and the council figure out those names.
Okay. I just wanted to know the process for making that appointment is
I
all.
think it won't be long because I think they want the names, so we'll get to it.
Thank you. Is there anything else under new and unfinished business?
Mr. President, from what I understand, my appointees have to be approved by the council, so I can put them up, and just like with Human Relations Commission and other board spots, so my appointees will come before you, and your appointee will be decided amongst you, so you'll have input on all three.
Okay. Is there anything else under new and unfinished business? Hearing none, new and unfinished business is closed. I don't have anybody signed up to speak in person. Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak? Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you for all your